is The Jeff Crilley Show. Well, I think everyone would agree that the country hasn't been this polarized in recent memory. You can't have a Thanksgiving dinner and talk about politics because you're going to alienate somebody at the table. There are dating apps in which you were only swiping right for somebody who happens to have your same political beliefs. Aaron Perlett is in the studio. He has written this amazing book. It's called The Death of Compromise. Aaron, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Yeah. All right. How long had you been working on this in your mind?
In my mind, I'm a long-suffering centrist, and so I'm used to everyone disagreeing with me from the left and the right. And I even recalled the other day a lunch I had with a couple economists and some other folks thinking about trying to create a centrist think tank. But the tipping point for me was when Charlie Kirk was murdered. It was my son's 21st birthday, and you know, you're doing what a lot of dads do. You're sitting around thinking about how proud you are of your child, and then all of a sudden I see this news that Charlie Kirk was shot, and I wasn't a particular believer in what Charlie had to say, but I really appreciated what he was doing and how he was going about it. That
Yes.
he was exercising his constitutional rights by going around to college campuses and speaking to young people and trying to change hearts and minds. That is how the framers set up our political system, our society, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And for that, he was shot in the throat.
Well, and I applaud you because you were telling me before the show that you went into this with a clean slate. You didn't come in with an agenda. This is where this book is headed. You were really kind of on a search for, you know, what are the facts?
Yeah, you know, I didn't. You're right. I didn't really want to. I did come in as a clean slate. I didn't want to go into it with an opinion. I wanted to go in and simply do more of an historical analysis than to write a position paper or something that was eschewing left virtues or right virtues or what have you. And I just wanted to understand how things have gotten to where they are today, because they disgust me. It's upsetting.
Yes.
It's upsetting that our two-party system can't simply work together with a vision of trying to make our republic better, because we've gotten so addicted to power. If you think about a marriage, in a marriage, we are conditioned to compromise because we are more concerned about the unity of the marriage itself than we are about being right. In today's system, we're more concerned about power than we are about the health of the republic. And that's truly problematic.
Yes. We're going to put the book cover on the screen because if you look carefully, this is a casket. Tell us about the death of compromise. Like right now, if you're on the right or you're on the left, it's really seen as bad to reach across the aisle.
It is. In fact, you know, it can be, you and I were talking earlier, it's political suicide today. And it's also political suicide to criticize your own party today. We saw that happen with Liz Cheney. We also saw that happen with several Democrats who were on the January 6th commission, that their political careers have really been dragged through the mud and are, for the most part, over.
Yes.
And the fact that we can't simply disagree and walk away, shake hands, and
Right.
and you know, seemingly what we're doing is compromise is the politics of the adult, and societally we've decided to reward the tantrum. And you know, I needed to understand what's driven that, because it's certainly gotten worse over the past 20, 25 years.
Yes.
And I really wanted to understand where's this all come from, because I don't know. I was born in 1971, and I have, throughout my lifetime, I have seen it get worse and worse and worse. Really beginning, I started noticing it in the 90s. And not to say that disagreements weren't always there. I mean, again, the framers built our system so that we would have to compromise, so that we would have arguments, so we have disagreements in policy. And there has been disagreements in policy since the beginning of our republic. But if you look at the volume of political violence, it's gone up. Not only did we have Charlie Kirk, but right before him, we had 2 legislators in the state of Minnesota that were gunned down. One of them was killed along with her husband. A few years ago, we had someone who went and, I don't know if you recall this, but someone from Illinois drove to Washington, D.C., and they opened fire at a Republican practice for their softball team, because it was an annual softball game between congressional Democrats and Republicans. And Steve Scalise, who's a leader in the House right now, I remember he was critically injured, and today he still walks with a limp because of it. And there's been many more, and it just seems like it's ratcheting up and the heat is getting hotter and hotter, and it's frightening. You know, I think about you and I both have kids, and you think about when I'm gone, what is our country going to look like? What's the ability for my children to espouse whatever their views might be?
Right.
I don't know what that is, and it frightens me.
In a minute, we're going to show a video about Tip O'Neill and Reagan, but maybe set this up, because you remember this. This was kind of they were politically, separate, but somehow they found a commonality, and legislation went through.
Yeah, I mean, the two of them notoriously worked together, and if you speak to quite a few of maybe some retired senators, old-time senators, and Congress people, they will speak to, and I spoke to 2 for this book, Tom Daschle and John Danforth, and they both talked about their relationships. Tom Daschle, one of his best friends, is Trent Lott, who was, a high-ranking Republican official for many, many years on Capitol Hill. But Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan had tremendous respect for one another, and they worked together to craft policy that was valuable for everyone in the United States.
I've always known that Tip was behind me. Even it was only at the State of the Union address. As I made each proposal, I could hear Tip whispering to the George Bush, "Forget it, no way."
President Reagan and his Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, were 2 great Americans with Irish roots. Even though they were at the opposite ends of the political spectrum, they had the utmost respect for each other. Chris Matthews, a top aide to the former Speaker of the House, remembers.
So they're both serious men. There was nothing frivolous about it. They were friends socially, and they did go to St. Patrick's Day parties every year together. I think if Tip O'Neill had known when he first met Ronald Reagan that you're in the presence right now of one of the top 10 presidents in history, I think that would have shook Tip O'Neill to his roots. He understood that Reagan was a guy that he could do business with. We're watching the Challenger speech, and Tip's got a tear in his eye. What he said about Reagan was interesting. He said he's the greatest person in the country that he's ever seen, including Franklin Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy. That better than either of those 2, he could give a speech. That's something. So he did get it about Reagan's greatness.
When he calls me at night, he says, "Is it 6 o'clock? Can we talk friendly?" Sure, absolutely. So we swap an Irish story or 2. Mr. President, we have differed in philosophy, but I want to tell you how much I admire your ability, your talent, the way you handle the American people, the love that the American people have for you, and your leadership.
I'm grateful you have permitted me in the past, and I hope in the future, that singular honor, the honor of calling you my friend.
On this day that President Reagan and Tip O'Neill shared, happy St. Patrick's Day to all, and may the luck of the Irish be with you.
And I think the interesting thing about that clip, Aaron, is it didn't diminish either of them within their own party.
Not at all. I really, it's funny what that reminded me of. I was a kid and I was watching, remember the show Different Strokes?
Yeah.
Nancy Reagan was a guest.
I remember
And the gag was she had to make a call to her husband and said, "Look," and he said, "I know you're with Tip right now." So even pop culture recognized that these 2 men had a friendship and had a working relationship, more important, that benefited the American people.
Yes.
And it's a little sad that we can't have that today. And there's quite a few reasons for it. This has been a slow simmering thing. The death of compromise didn't come overnight. It was not an immediate occurrence.
We have another clip, and I want you to set this up before we play it. It's John McCain.
So John McCain is, if there is one politician whom I most admire, it's probably John McCain, through my lifetime at least. I've just always thought the world of him. I thought he was a pragmatic leader, and he was a great representative of everything that I think the United States should stand for. Not only did he serve our country in war, he was a prisoner of war, but he was also just a tremendous leader. And of course, he ran for president. But he was always very measured with his critiques. And I will never forget this in this clip, this question that was posed to him at a town hall about former President Obama when they were running against one another. And the way he was willing to take a stand against someone who really lobbed some, what he believed to be unfair criticism at Mr. Obama at the time, not a president at the time.
Yeah, let's go ahead and roll that clip.
We're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency, and I'll tell you why. I'm concerned about someone that cohorts with domestic terrorists such as heirs.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now, now look, I
got to ask you a question. I do not believe in, I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you. Thank you.
And we watched that clip together before the show. It's unimaginable today. You couldn't say that today.
No, I can't recall, in fact, anything like that in 10 years on the at least the national political spectrum. I cannot. It's really unfortunate because what's happened is we're living in this outrage economy now. It's outrage pays, and we've seen that, and it's incredibly disappointing. And seeing that is such a great memory of the way we used to be. And I don't want to be one of those get off my lawn guys,
right?
But I'm cautiously optimistic that, and this is why I wrote this book, that if we understand that we can disagree and still govern the country, peaceably disagree, then I think we can be in a much better place as a society, not just on our political spectrum.
Okay, how did we get here? In your mind, when did it start?
So there is a couple things, and I go back to all the way back to Joe McCarthy in the 1950s. But to me, where I saw it really ratchet up, and it didn't dawn on me until I was speaking with Tom Daschle, the former leader of the Senate from South Dakota. He talked about C-SPAN. He was very much against C-SPAN broadcasting congressional hearings, and John Danforth, former senator from Missouri, who I also spoke with, it wasn't high on his agenda, but he agreed wholeheartedly in that it created it birthed the performative nature of politics. Now, politicians have always performed to some degree,
sure, but
when the television camera is on, you change. You are for a politician, you are there to put on a performance and not necessarily to govern. And then I think the next step that I saw was in 1987. Most people will have no idea what this means, but there was something called the Fairness Doctrine that governed media through the FCC from 1949 until 1987. Now, the Reagan administration, like most Republican administrations, very eager to strip away what they believed to be unnecessary regulations. So they removed this. And what the Fairness Doctrine did was it essentially said, you need to be unbiased in your coverage of media. which is one of the biggest criticisms we hear today, is that the media is too left or the media is too right. And so that gave way to Rush Limbaugh. That permitted shows like Rush Limbaugh's. And this was, again, more driving kind of outrage economy, because that's what Rush Limbaugh's show was about. It was wonderfully entertaining. I listened for many, many years. But it was this performative outrage that would punish pragmatic statesmanship. The next step in that is Fox News. Fox News was created by Roger Ailes, who was a longtime Republican operative, worked in the Nixon White House, worked in the Reagan White House. He and Rupert Murdoch's money created Fox News, which ultimately birthed MSNBC as the counter to that. And so you had these media outlets that, again, were getting us riled up because it was valuable to them. Yes. It was less. It's less valuable to them to not have an audience than it is to have an audience that is angry. Right. And this is part of who we've become. And to me, the next step to that is social media and what algorithms have done. Algorithms have fundamentally divided us, and most of us are on some semblance of social media today, and algorithms divide what we see and what we do not. And they started to lump us into these tribes where you see what your conservative friend, if you're conservative, you see what your conservative friends say. If you are liberal, you're in a liberal echo chamber, and you're only speaking to liberals. And all the time, you're complaining about those that are not there. And in this war between extremes, it's the reasonable who end up suffering.
Yeah.
When compromise dies, it takes with it the very foundation of collective progress, and that's what's happening.
And people can get canceled just for liking somebody else's post.
Yeah, I have people who get furious with me all the time because, again, I'm an equal opportunist. I'm not interested in taking a side, and that's what this book's about. I'm not interested in taking a side. All I'm interested in doing is providing a window so that a reader can go in and they can see this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened factually without any kind of gloss on it. And towards the end of the book, I do certainly lay out some things that I think are, vehicles towards a path forward. But I try very, very hard to simply just, in an unbiased way, go through our history of the last 60, 70 years.
Sure. Well, we think about the Civil War, and we came very close to losing the nation. Yeah. But somehow we all got back together again. I remember after September 11th, just for a brief moment, everybody coming out of the towers was gray. You didn't see black, you didn't see white, you didn't see Republican, you didn't see Democrats. We were all united for a brief moment, and then we kind of went back to fighting again. Can we get the genie back in the bottle?
I'm cautiously optimistic, but it's also a great question. So the foreword for my book is written by decorated Navy SEAL Steve Van Horn, and he talks about this thing called violent agreement that they have in the SEALs. And violent agreement means that you can have a really healthy argument with the other operators and the people that are planning the mission or what have you, but once it's decided, everybody's on board and you move forward. I don't know if we can get back to whether it's violent agreement or get back to statesmanship, but we've lost a lot of that. I do think something that's real topical that we're seeing all around the country, we see it in Texas, we see it in Virginia, we just saw it with the Supreme Court weighing in Louisiana. Gerrymandering, either to the left or to the right, is pretty dangerous.
Yes.
Because essentially what we're doing is we're trying to purposefully create an uneven playing field based on a party system, or based on a specific party. And if you think about the primary system right now, from a structural standpoint, the primaries are set up for either someone extreme on the left or right to win.
Yes.
It's not set up for something in the middle, something, pragmatic statesmanship. Campaign people have been talking about campaign finance for years. There was bipartisan work on the McCain-Feingold amendment, but having money so inherently involved in our politics is a dangerous thing. I think also Senator Danforth said something really fascinating to me when I was speaking with him. He talked about he believes that religious leadership, and he's a ordained minister. He's a devout Christian. He believes that religious leadership in this country has failed the people because they've gotten in the way of that separation of church and state, and it's become part of the way that we have vilified one another. It's part of the way, obviously not in the entirety of it, but
Yes.
when you look at someone who has different political belief system than you do, and you look at them and you consider them evil for doing so,
Right.
how do you psychologically get around that? That's difficult.
All right, so Aaron, we've got about 2 minutes left. So
Yeah.
I want you to look into the camera on the left and kind of bring it home for us. And let's get back to like personal responsibility. It's easy to blame the media. It's easy to
Yeah.
blame social media. But we all have to take accountability, don't we?
We all do, because people say, well, who's at fault? No one's at fault, and everyone's at fault. But only each of us on our local levels. When you live in a town of 300 people, it's really kind of hard to hate someone for their politics because you have to rely on them. And I think that we need to understand that we all play a role in this, and of bringing our society back to a place of reason, because ultimately it's undoing us. It's making us a worse place. And that's a sad state of affairs, because we can be and have been such a beautiful nation, a wonderful republic, and we all play a role in it. And we have to move beyond this outrage economy and understand that compromise is not a moral failing or capitulation. Compromise is actually being an adult. It's being reasonable. And if there's one thing that I hope readers take away from the book, is that each of us play a role, and each of us need to play a role in improving where we are today. And it's not about our party system. It's about each of us and our values, and not seeing someone on the other side as being evil or morally bankrupt.
Well, great way to end the show. Get his book on Amazon or wherever books are sold. And we're going to end with your website, which is your name, AaronPerlett.com. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.